Hi, I'm Bob Nizes from Cold Spring, Kentucky. I golf at A.J. Jolly Golf Course in Alexandria, Kentucky. Welcome to Golf Smarter.
Hi, this is Bob Cordaro from Haverford, Pennsylvania, and I play at the Shore Club in Cape May Courthouse, New Jersey. This is Golf Smarter number 1025.
The Masters has these limited edition garden gnomes. They're about a foot tall. In classic Masters fashion, they don't tell you a lot of things about what goes on behind the scenes. They don't tell you how many of them they issue per year, but I tell a story where it's a millennial, he lives in suburban Georgia, bought a garden gnome the first year. It was $39.50 in 2016. He sold it in 2024 for $8,900. So that tells you, number one, anything with a Masters logo on it is worth something. You can travel anywhere in the world and people know what the Masters logo is about. But it's one of the 10 principles I talk about in the book. How do you use scarcity to create value? They've perfected that. You can only buy their things 7 days a year in person.
I dream the world could be more like the Masters with author of The Augusta Principles, John Sabino.
This is Golf Smarter, sharing stories, tips, and insights from great golf minds to help you lower your score and raise your golf IQ. Here's your host, Fred Green.
Welcome back to the Golf Smarter podcast, John.
Hello, Fred. Thanks for having me back. Appreciate it.
Thank you for reaching out again. Now, it's interesting I'm saying welcome back to the Golf Smarter podcast, but you haven't been on since 2008 and episode 159. And
wow.
For the listeners that were here back then, and there are some, you may remember we never learned John's name. He was anonymous at the time because he was on episode number 52 in 2006. Episode number 108 in 2007, and then episode 159 in 2008. And what we were doing at the end of each year, I don't know how you found me, but it was early on in podcasting days, and you reached out to me to say, I'm trying to play the best golf courses in the world, the top 100 courses.
Yep.
And so you gave us a recap of your year of what you were doing. And I do distinctly remember in 2008, I think it was, you felt like there was one course you would never get to.
That's true. That's
Augusta National.
Yeah, it took me, I think, 12 years to play the top 99 in the world. And it took me another 3 or 4 to get on Augusta, but I had given up. I thought, okay, 99's pretty good. I had been to the Masters and walked the course. That's pretty close, sort of 99 and a half. But then out of the blue, the company I work for, they invited the CEO to play. But luckily there was a board meeting that week and he couldn't go. So he called my boss, who lives in Charlotte, but he had played it already. And he did the most gracious thing anybody could do. And he said, well, John needs to play. Let's give it to John. And that's how I got on. And I ended up
playing. Did they know you were going, your quest to get
They
the top
knew
100?
about it. Yeah, it was widely known. That was a different company. The reason I came on your podcasts anonymous before is the company I worked for at the time, Morgan Stanley, didn't really want any publicity. You know, they were very shy on everything. But when I worked for Capital One, which is where I got the invite to Augusta, they didn't care as much about that. And I ended up playing. That was the last course I played, obviously. And I played with Mark O'Meara the day before the Masters in 2013.
My gosh.
Yeah, it was quite an event. And we played on the front nine. Mark and I played alone, and then we were going, and on the 10th tee, Jose Maria Olazabal came off the practice putting green and said, oh, do you guys mind if I join you? And Mark said, it's okay with me. Let's see if John wants you to join. or not. So he turned to me and he said, "Is it okay if John joins?" And what am I going to say, Fred? Like, yeah, no, we're in a groove here, Mark. Let's just keep going. So
Yeah, right. Exactly.
I played the back nine with two Masters champions, and it was phenomenal because they're friends, and it was a very comfortable pairing. And they would each drop a ball on different greens and say, "When I won the Masters, here's the putt I had on 13." And they recreated shots for me. There's only one way to end a quest to do what I was doing, and that's the way I did. I tell people now, I'm probably the only golfer maybe in the world that doesn't want to play Augusta. Because nothing I could do would top the experience I had. So if I ever got invited again, I would pay it forward and invite a couple of my friends. Yeah, I have a waiting list. I'll put you on it.
My hand is up.
In case the others drop out, Fred, I'll slot you in.
Okay. Well, Morgan Stanley, they didn't want the publicity. They also probably would have to get a team of lawyers and compliance people to make sure that you didn't say anything.
Exactly.
It was like, so, yeah.
Yep.
But you wanted to remain, you had to remain anonymous by being on the podcast, but you were so nice to come back. But then you disappeared. I reached out to you and I never heard from you again. So I thought, well, that was pretty awesome. We got 3 years. I wonder whatever happened. And your name came up to me in 2010 when I was playing at Harding Park with the two crazy Kiwis.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Right. Michael and Jamie. Yep.
Yeah. Michael and Jamie. So these kids were traveling around the world and we're going to play a different course for 365 days in a row.
Yep.
And circumvent the planet.
Yep.
And do it and play golf. And they did it. And so when they stopped in San Francisco, I played with them at Harding Park.
Yep.
And they told me that they played with you.
Yep.
And they told me your name was John. I'm like, I didn't know that. He's
That's
like,
funny.
What do you mean? He's like, he never told me his name. When I asked, he's like, no, I can't really tell you.
That's funny.
So I'll just tell you my stories, but that's all I can do.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were fun.
Yeah.
And where did you play with them?
I believe it or not, in Melbourne, Australia, I met them. I was playing Walton Heath, and I think one of the caddies said, "Oh, you have to meet these guys." So I met them down there. We played a couple of holes. And then when they were coming through the U.S., I played with them. I hosted them in New Jersey a couple of times and helped them out getting on different courses where I could. Yeah, they were, I forget how old, maybe 23 at the time. And I told them they were going to ruin their lives. They peaked too early. You can't, that's right. Think about how great that is to play golf 365 days in a row.
But you got to be 23 to have that kind of stamina to do that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, just go out every single day. It's like, couldn't do it today.
I couldn't either. My back couldn't do it.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I'm curious. I'm going to go back to Augusta and the time that you played with two Masters champions.
Yep.
How was your game at the time?
It wasn't bad. I shot to my handicap. The highlight of the round was I played Amen Corner in even par.
Ooh.
I parred 11. I birdied 12, which is one of those iconic holes in the world where you think about if there's holes you want to birdie, Cypress Point 16, TPC Sawgrass 17, with the water. But Augusta's 12th is pretty high up on that list. And then I bogeyed 13. So, yeah, I played to my handicap. Mark was very gracious. You're extremely nervous when you play Augusta under any conditions.
Of course.
So on the first two holes, he played the members' tees with me instead of playing the pro tees, just to sort of, help me get into the situation and make sure I wasn't too nervous, which I was. But I hit the first fairway. I parred the second hole. Yeah, I did okay. I played to my handicap. The greens are insane. They're extremely difficult. And they were tournament speed. Like on 18, I hit above the hole, and I just tapped the putt to try to get it to the hole, and it ran off the front of the green. And then Jose Maria comes up and he drops the ball, and he says, "There's just nothing you could do. There's no speed you could hit it to stop it." He goes, "The lesson is you just can't be above some of these holes." So yeah, it was really interesting.
So what's the difference between the members tees and the pro tees?
The members tees, I think, are 6,600, and God knows what the pro tees are these days. Probably 74 or 7,500. They keep lengthening it, but 6,600 is manageable for the average golfer, which I was at the time.
And is it true that you cannot post, or the course is not rated?
It doesn't have a slope rating. That's correct. It doesn't have it. Yep.
So it's just a story you get to tell.
It's just a great round of golf that you remember forever, but you can't post the score.
Right.
Yeah.
And the story lasts longer than your 20 rounds anyway,
exactly.
right?
And I'm still telling people that I birdied 12. So thanks for giving me the opportunity to do it again.
Oh, absolutely. I'm going to give you a lot of opportunities to brag about this because it's such an amazing story.
Yep.
So wait, when you were saying you were playing to your handicap, come on, give me more than that.
My handicap at the time was 16, so I did break 100, but not by a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like certain holes just didn't suit my eye. Like 16, I hit into the water. I hit left into the water. 17, I hit at this time. The Eisenhower tree was still there. I hit it with my drive. 18, I just butchered up. 10, I had a really hard time on. I ended up in that big bunker at the bottom of the hill and had a hard time getting out. And part of the reason for that was on the 9th hole, Tiger Woods had just teed off and he saw us and he came walking over. So Mark introduced me. So I got to meet Tiger and had a little chat with him. So even though I through the first 8 holes, I was fine. After meeting Tiger, it took me 2 holes to settle down. Like I was hyperventilating. The caddy saved me. He came over. He said, okay, just take deep breaths. It's going to be okay. Don't worry about it. And luckily I rallied for him end corner.
Oh my gosh. And were there moments there like that you were incredibly self-conscious being a 16 handicap playing with these pros on the course?
Yep. And it gets even worse. I had
worse.
It was the 6th hole.
It's only better.
Yeah, the 6th hole. We walk up to it and there was these 2 older gentlemen sitting in a golf cart and there were 2 like teenagers about to tee off. And Mark says to me, he goes, "Oh, let me introduce you to these gentlemen." One of them was Bob Golby, who won, I think, in '67. That's with the incident with the Argentinian golfer who disqualified himself. And then he said, "This other gentleman is Bob. Is it Bob Ford? Doug Ford, excuse me." So they let us play through. We hit our shots, and down at the green, I said, I recognize Golby's name, but who is Doug Ford? And he said, well, he won the Masters in 1957. If you could imagine, I'm like, how is this person even alive? So yeah, I pulled that shot pretty good too because I had a couple of Masters champions watching on that, but. If you let it get in your head, it's intimidating. I mean, I had played obviously around the world on very good courses, and sometimes playing with golfers that were +2 and +3 handicaps, which can be a little bit intimidating. But I think because it was Mark O'Meara and he's just such a gracious person and a nice man, it was just the nerves weren't as bad as I thought they were most of the round.
I'm curious to know how you hooked up with Mark O'Meara. I mean, like they said, "Oh, let John play this round," but at what point did you know that it was going to be with Mark O'Meara?
Well, after they invited me, I knew right away. Okay. Capital One spends a lot of money on golf-related things, and it's sort of a way that they pay it back. You know, when they get opportunities to have people that sponsor tournaments and spend a lot of money on golf, they give them those kind of perks. And you know, I guess there was just an opportunity that came up and I was lucky enough to get it.
So you're playing there the day before
2013 Masters. Yep.
So what was this, on a Wednesday or was it Tuesday?
No, it's the Saturday. The Saturday
Okay. So it's the weekend
before.
before everybody
No,
starts
excuse
arriving?
me, the Sunday. The Sunday before. So the tournament, the practice rounds start on Monday. So
I see.
it was the Sunday before.
Perfect.
Yeah, and the only people allowed on the course that day are former champions, and they're allowed one guest each.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I 2025, I got to go on Wednesday and Thursday. And it was mind blowing for me. But one of the things that really kind of not shook me up, but I was just so surprised. It's just like there's no rough anywhere.
Yes.
I mean, the one thing about the greens being, I would see guys take a stroke that would be for like a 5-foot putt and it would go 35 feet.
Yep.
There was that. But the fact that like the second cut, which is, what everyone else would call a rough, seemed to be like most of the putting greens that I played.
Yeah. I mean, aside from hitting into the water, you can't really get in a lot of trouble. I mean, you could hit onto the pine straw. That's a little difficult to hit out of, but you're right. The fairways are in perfect condition. The first cut is very easy to hit out of, not very thick. Most of the courses, the difficulty is the approaches to the green. Can you hold the green if you're coming in from the wrong spot? And most of the time the answer is no. And then once you're on the putting greens, if you're not in the right spot, it's very difficult to putt because they're very fast. That's the challenge of Augusta.
I would think that the challenge of the Augusta is the intimidation factor.
Yes, it is. It is very intimidating. Yep, no doubt about it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, okay, now we've got that established. That's not why you're here today. You've just written a book that I thoroughly enjoyed, and
Thank you.
I promise you there will be copies given out this holiday season to a number of my friends who are not only golfers but they appreciate what Augusta is and what the Masters is in the world of sports.
Yep.
But they're also in business.
Yep.
And so you took this approach on the book. And why don't you give me the overview of what you think the book is, and then we can go into detail.
So you've been to the Masters, and even for people that haven't been to the Masters, they get a sense of obviously how perfect the course is watching on TV. And it's also the best broadcast of the year for a variety of reasons. So the thing that strikes me when you're actually on the property at Augusta, and I've been lucky enough to go 9 times,
Wow,
is it's perfect. There are so many things that they do well. The attention to detail is the one that most people pick up on. You can't find any weeds on the property. Everybody's cheery. There's just, everybody's well behaved while they're on property. And every time I left Augusta, I said to myself, how do they do this? This is a perfect place. And then you get out of Augusta and people are rude and it's loud and everything is commercialized and everything is not perfect. So the idea behind the book was to deconstruct what it is that goes into the Masters. How do the members at Augusta National, what's the secret formula that they use? And I reverse engineered it. I didn't have access to any members or to the club. I did a lot of research. I read for months and months everything I could about the Masters and what goes into it. So most books that have been written about the Masters are about the tournament or about the course itself. This is the first book that's really about what makes it special. And originally I was going to write it as just a golf book. But then as I started to get into it, I asked the question, and this was really the driving force behind the book, why can't the world be more like the Masters? Right? It's just, a lot of people describe it that have been there as an adult Disneyland. And in many respects, it is. Nobody has a bad day when they go there. Everybody is going out of their way to please you, and just the way that the patrons behave and the civility behind it. So I went through and I deconstructed what makes it such a great tournament. That was the idea behind it. And the reason I decided to make it a business book is certainly I'd say, the majority of the book, probably 80%, talks about the masters and what they do right. But then I also said, okay, are there other businesses and are there other examples where other companies who take the same philosophy and the same approach can make the world more like the masters? So that's the idea behind it, to try to spread the formula that they have for people that are in business or making decisions. What can they do to make their businesses operate better, or to treat customers with more respect, or to create a more civil environment? So, and as you know, there's a lot that can be done in the world to improve things, and we could talk about some of the specifics.
Well, yeah, I mean, early on in the book, you establish, on page 24, you say Augusta National's principles can be replicated.
Yep.
And you riff from there.
Yeah, and one of the things that so like take attention to detail. They hand clip the edges of the grass near the bunkers to make sure that they're perfect. The pro shop, if you pay in cash, all the cash in the pro shop are brand new bills. They won't give you a bill that's been used before. Now, that's a quirk that Cliff Roberts set up. He didn't like dirty bills, but they still abide by that. When they cut the flower bed in Founder's Circle, which is at the end of Magnolia Lane, they have a horizontal ladder that they use so that they don't tramp down on any of the flowers. I mean, it's an insane attention to detail. But let's take two examples outside of Augusta. Ritz-Carlton also does a fantastic job on attention to detail. Partly they do that by empowering their employees. Partly it's just part of their culture and their ethos. So that's one example. And people are going to think, okay, yeah, sure. Augusta has a lot of money. Ritz-Carlton's a very expensive hotel. If you have a lot of money, it's a lot easier to pay attention to detail. So I also made sure that a bunch of the examples that I gave in the book were not companies that are high-end only. And my favorite example is a company called Buc-ee's. Buc-ee's runs convenience centers / gas stations / superstores along highways, primarily in the South. And Buc-ee's is interesting. The reason I put it in the book is another thing Augusta does really well. If you've ever been to the Masters and you go to the bathroom, they have an attendant that cleans the stall after each use. It's insane, right? Like it's
definitely going to the bathroom was one of the highlights of my 2 days there.
Right?
Absolutely.
You're greeted by an attendant. There's people in there cleaning everything all the time. And what's a good example is one of the things that Buc-ee's has made part of their mission statements. They say they have the cleanest bathrooms in America, right? So for gas stations on highway rest stops, how do you do that, right? You do that by committing. You want to have an attention to detail. They take the time to make sure that that's part of their culture. They train their associates to do that. And the place has a cult following. It's if you've ever been in one, if you haven't, I recommend visiting. It's very similar to Augusta. They have tons of branded gear and merchandise that they sell. Everybody is upbeat and cheery. It's just a really good example of yes, there are ways. Not everybody's not going to be perfect all the time, but pick a couple things, and you can really help to drive business and it's a cult brand. People will drive an hour out of their way to go get their gas at Buc-ee's because they know that they're going to get a clean restroom. So that's just one example that is a way to replicate what Augusta does.
I have to share my experience in the bathroom. I was I think it was around hole number 4. I had to go to the bathroom. Told my buddy, I'll be back in a minute after the bathroom. And there was this young man with the greatest energy and the biggest smile, saying, if you got to go number one, get in line here. If you got to go number two, just wait against the wall. And he was like, he just repeated it, but his enthusiasm every single time that he repeated it. So when I got to the front of line, I was, I was like, did you audition for this job? He goes, no. I said, do you enjoy repeating it? He goes, I love this job. I've been doing this. He couldn't have been more than 25 years old. He says, I've been doing this for 7 years. I absolutely love doing this. But I also saw that in the parking lot. As soon as you got out of the car, there was a friendly person saying, welcome to the Masters.
Isn't it crazy? And you hear that about 20 times even before you get in the gate. The security guards, there's members in green jackets. People think that Augusta members are aloof and you never see them. I mean, they're captains of industry. They're very successful people, but there are 3 or 4 members who are assigned to the parking lots. And that's what and before you get through the gates, they're saying hello and they're welcoming you in. Again, like you look at, there are businesses that do that. Buc-ee's happens to be another one where you get a warm greeting. Another one I have in the book is Publix, a supermarket chain, also in the South. And Publix has what they call, they have a couple rules. They have a 10-second rule, which is every customer has to be greeted within 10 seconds of coming into your department. And it just makes a big difference, right? It's that same Augusta, and it's a supermarket. It's not a golf tournament run by a lot of affluent people, but it makes a huge difference. And they have a huge, customer satisfaction rating as a result. That's just one of the small things that they do.
Just one of the small things. You briefly dropped his name in, but we need to talk more about Cliff Roberts. We hear a lot about Bobby Jones, obviously, especially on this show, because Dr. Bob Jones IV, his grandson, has been a regular on this show.
Nice.
And telling stories about his grandfather, who he refers to as Bub, for the last number of years. But we really don't hear a lot about the thumbprint that Cliff Roberts put on Augusta National.
I talk about a lot of the things that Roberts does in the book. And one of the things I speculate about is he was never diagnosed with OCD, but in my opinion, he definitely had it. So, aside from he hated dirty money, so he made sure there was only clean and brand new bills there. He also made sure OCD. That every picture in the clubhouse has to have 2 hooks on it so that no pictures are ever crooked. They make sure that the pine straw around the trees is raked in a clockwise fashion only. So if you look at the Masters, Jones was the reason most people came to the tournament. Both fans came to the tournament, and that's the reason it got established as a major, because the pros came to honor Bobby Jones. But everything behind the scenes was really Roberts. Jones really operated at a high level, let's say 30,000 feet. Roberts got into the detail of everything. And one of the reasons that the Masters broadcast to this day is still so good, those are the things that Roberts laid down as the law, right? He didn't want commercials. He didn't want it commercial. He set it up so that the agreements with the broadcasters are year to year. So if they don't like what is going on, they have control over it. And he would sit down with CBS executives after every year, and he would critique and say, I like this, I don't like this. So again, one of the reasons he made the TV broadcast so good is he said, look, I don't like chatty conversation. I don't like broadcasters talking all the time. And for any of your listeners that watch golf, which I'm sure most of them do, it's very annoying. It's sort of like, the broadcasters feel like they can't have any dead space. They can't have any quiet there.
We call it dead air in this business. Can't have the
Robert
dead air.
said, the last thing I want is quote unquote chatty conversation. I don't want that. Golfers want useful information. So a good example of that is if you go back, I know you've had Jim Nance as a guest on your show. If you go back and look at his most famous call, which was 86 when Jack Nicklaus was charging for his last green jacket, that where he says the bear has come out of hibernation. If you actually go and you listen to that, there are long pauses and periods of silence, even throughout that. After Nance says the bear has come out of hibernation, he's silent and nobody else talks. And the same thing if you look at the most famous call with Tiger Woods' shot on the 16th hole where Vern Lundquist screams, "In your life, have you ever seen that?" After that, nobody says anything for 20 seconds because they knew, that those are the types of things that Cliff Roberts instilled in it. And the fact that there's 4 minutes of commercials makes it fantastic. Roberts was just dead set against commercialism. And I think I have a quote in the book on this where one of the former chairmen said, "We'd rather shut the tournament down than have it be the Pizza Hut Masters." They don't want commercialism to be a part of it. And that goes back to what Cliff Roberts said. He was the detail man.
Yeah. Well, you repeat multiple times throughout the book that it's not about the money.
No, it's not. It's not about the money at all. If you look at like take the ability to buy anything. I notice you have a Masters hat on. The only way to buy Masters branded gear is to go and buy it in person at the Masters. Certainly, you can buy it in the secondary market on eBay or other websites, but you're paying a huge markup. Now, Augusta, they could flood the zone. They could make Masters items available throughout. Anybody could buy it. They don't want to do that. They don't need the money. They could certainly raise the price of a sandwich, right? Instead of costing $2.50 or $5 for a beer, they could double or triple those, and
Absolutely.
people would still buy them. It's part of the ethos, and it's just a core part of the club. And again, throughout the book, I give credit to all the chairmen and members of the club over the last 100 years that have stuck to that. It's one thing for Jones and Roberts to say that. It's another thing for the club to live up to those principles. And it's created.
It is the Old South.
Yeah, it's the Old South, very much. I agree.
Yeah.
And it's created some crazy things. One of my favorite things in the book is, I don't know how much people know about these. The Masters has these gnomes. They have limited edition garden gnomes. They're about a foot tall. They won't tell you how many of them. In classic Masters fashion, they don't tell you a lot of things about what goes on behind the scenes. They don't tell you how many of them they issue per year. But I tell a story where, and I actually spoke to this individual. It's a millennial. He lives in suburban Georgia. He bought the garden gnome the first year. It was $39.50 in 2016. He bought it. He sold it in 2024 for $8,900. So that tells you a couple of things, right? It tells you, number one, how much people really value anything with a Masters logo on it is worth something. You can travel anywhere in the world and people know what the Masters logo is about. But it's one of the 10 principles I talk about in the book, which is how do you use scarcity to create value, right? They've perfected that. You can only buy their things 7 days a year in person. You use scarcity and things create value. And the company in the book that I use as an example where other companies can do it outside is Hermès, the French high-end fashion retailer. They make the Birkin bags and they also limit those and they don't, you basically can't buy them. They won't tell you how many they make. So again, it's just another example of how you can take some of the things that Augusta does and replicate them. But imagine buying something for $39.50 and selling it for almost $9,000. I mean, hedge funds don't even have that rate of return.
So I need to share like my purchasing history when I was there this year. And it still makes me laugh when I do it, because I knew that, and I wasn't aware of the scarcity mentality that they had about that. But I knew I was going to have to buy gifts for people. I'm,
Right.
like my friends don't have the opportunity that I had. And so I literally went online starting to look for, it's like, well, I can get some hats cheaper and then I'll just buy them and give them to my friends, say I was there. And there was nothing. I couldn't find anything.
Yep.
Right. And my son, who he and I have been like, who's going to go first? Who's going to go first? And I never thought I was going to get to go. And he was convinced he was going to go. I went Wednesday and Thursday. He went Friday and Saturday.
Nice.
But I was the guest of a member. So he said, you've got to get me a hat from Augusta National that has Augusta National. I'm like, okay, I will find one. So as soon as we went through the gates, we went right to the pro shop for the members that we got to go into. We had these special members passes. And I asked someone, I said, do you have Augusta National hats? Like, nope, only Masters hats. And that was the end of the conversation. I'm like, oh, okay, well. So I text my son, it's just Masters, not Augusta National. So I'm still looking around and I'm shopping, and my first shopping experience while I was there. And I buy the hat that I'm wearing right now for you. And then my son, when I saw him 2 weeks later, he's like, where'd you get that hat? And I said, well, I bought it in the pro shop. It was the one that I kind of liked it a lot and it fit me really well. So yeah, I bought this hat. And he goes, well, that was only available in the members pro shop. Why didn't you get me that hat? I'm like, I had no idea. They just told me there were none. And he's like, well, give me the hat. I'm like, no, I'm not going to give you the hat. I love this hat. I'm going to wear this hat a lot. And I don't wear baseball caps, but I'm going to wear this hat a lot. He goes, well, no, you got to give it to, I'm not going to give it to you. I love you, but I'm not going to give you my hat. And he goes, well, that's okay. I'll get it when you die. I'm like, okay, great. That's something to look forward to. Then that's all you're getting from me is my hat.
That's funny.
Get
there's
else.
a whole. Most people wouldn't even know. Like the Masters logo.
Somebody offered me $1,000 in the market at Trader Joe's. Someone came up and goes,
"Really?
You there this year?" And I went, "Yeah." And he goes, "I want your hat." I'm like, "No." He goes, "No, I'll give you $1,000." I'm like, "No, my son wants it." And he goes, I'll get, and he followed me around the market and we said goodbye. And then he came back to my wife and he says, "Can you please get him to give me the hat?" I'm like, "No, you can't have that."
Wow.
And my son's like, "You didn't take $1,000 for the hat?" And I'm like, "No, I was going to give it to you." He goes, "I'd sell it for $1,000.
That's funny.
Yeah. But, one of the lines that you have here just hit me right between the eyes. This was page 192. So excited to attend the Masters and unsure if they will ever return, patrons sometimes lose their senses.
They do.
That was me. That was me. I went shopping 4 times in the 2 days that I was there. I bought a gnome. Only the little ones because they were out of the big ones.
Yeah,
and I went right first thing.
The big ones sell
fly out the door.
Yeah, the big ones sell out.
But I do have a small one.
That's
and
cool.
And this is a course I know I'm never going to play. And if I go shopping in a pro shop because, I'm never going to play this course again, or I had a great round or something like that, I'll go right to the sales rack. And if I have to, I'll move beyond that and spend $90 on something. I spent $1,800.
Yep.
In 4 trips. Luckily, they let you go back to your car and come back.
Yes, I
went nuts.
They also allow you they have a UPS shipping station there. You can just walk out of the pro shop. They'll box it up and you can send it to yourself. The average spend is $450 more or less there. And they asked, I have this in the book too, because again, it's that whole scarcity factor. They asked one of the ladies that was working checkout, what's the biggest purchase she ever saw? And she said $20,000. So that could be, there's a lot of people that just go to the Masters and get tickets just to sell on eBay. She said basically they bought like 3 of everything. to me, that sounds like a reseller, which
Yeah.
at some point, it's very, very difficult, if not impossible, to resell Masters tickets now. They're all coded. And if you try to sell them, they'll deactivate the ticket. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they do the same thing with people that are trying to resell, because they really, one of the things that they do exceptionally well, and I go through this in the book, is nothing is more important than the brand. You alluded to it, right? It's not about money. They could certainly make more money by doing a lot of different things. They could start to charge the broadcasters, for instance. But they are just very protective of the brand, which in the long run makes all the sense in the world, right? Look at that little logo on your hat, how much that's worth. That's the brand.
Exactly right.
It's not always about money. Yeah.
But they also get the right people to do this. You talk about in the book about how their national, the chief merchandise and creative services officer.
Correct.
Give you a little bit about that.
Yes, they. So I would say the most frequent comment I hear from people, even when you're on property or after the fact, is it feels like an adult Disneyland, and part of that is everybody's aim is to have you feel good that day, and everybody, like you said before, bathroom attendants, people that are checking you out after you buy your pimento cheese sandwich, etc. But one of the things that they do exceptionally well that I think they don't get enough credit for is the way they manage talent. And the example I give is they hired someone who ran the merchandising operation for Walt Disney. And I think that person's been at the club for a dozen years or so. And if you look at what they've done in terms of merchandise and what they offer over that dozen years, they've greatly expanded the size of the pro shop that you go in to buy Masters gear. And they now do brand partnerships with selected brands that are only high quality. That's just one example. So obviously, the 300 members of Augusta are all very successful people. They can't do the day to day. And when you go, if you sit down and you have lunch, to a person, all the people that you're dealing with are cheerful. And I don't know any other company or brand or location in the world. Disney's probably the closest where everybody is that good. So again, I couldn't find out what they do exactly in terms of their training program, but I don't know how you get every single person on a location to be that upbeat and chirpy all the time. It's an exceptional part of what they do. And to me, they don't get enough credit for that. But again, I think it's talent management. It's going out and it's finding the right people. It's paying them well. It's grooming them and taking care of them. There's just so many. And that's one of the reasons where I started out as a golf book and then transitioned over. It's still 70-80% golf, but and golf fans will really enjoy the book, even
Absolutely.
if they're not into making business decisions. But it's just really interesting, some of the decisions that they've made. The other thing that they don't get enough credit for, right? It's essentially a lot of wealthy people that are successful. They're not young. And I give an example. They have a technology committee, and the average age of their technology committee is 65 years old. But arguably, they are one of the best users of technology in the world across any industry. If you use the Masters app, if you look at what they do in terms of their broadcast, where you can go and you can just watch Amen Corner, or you can watch every shot of any player. They're on, I think it's 15 different social media channels. I mean, you and I aren't spring chickens either, but they're huge users of TikTok, right? The average age of a TikTok user is high teens.
Right.
And most TikTok users are in Asia or Latin America. They're very sophisticated in terms of how they use technology. And it's one of the lessons that, to me, that really came out as I started to analyze the company. And frankly, when you go outside the masters, the masters only uses technology to help you. And most technology, and I use a couple of examples in the books. Try calling your cable company or your power company or UPS. First of all, you're not going to get anybody. You're going to get some phone tree that's mind numbing, and it's going to take you 5 minutes to get through that. And when you get through that, you're going to get to some chat bot that doesn't work. And then maybe you're going to be put on hold for 20 minutes. That's the way most companies use technology. They're using it to prevent you from getting to a person. They're using it to save money. And again, there's a huge lesson in there about how you don't have to do that. And I use a company of all places, Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin, called Uline. And they sell shipping supplies and cardboard boxes and stuff. When you call Uline, the phone never rings. Go look up their 800 number and dial their number. I guarantee the phone will, in a second or less. The head of the company says, we pick up the phones faster than 911 when you dial 911. And he's right. It's incredible. Wow. Now that's a brilliant use of technology. So again, it's a relatively small, privately held company. It's just another good example of how, if you use technology wisely, you can actually help people and create a better environment. And it's another good example of how the world can be more like the masters if more companies and decision makers decided that it was a good goal and worthy to do that.
To me, what stands out about your book, what I enjoyed so much, is how you take a business view of something that all golfers and many non-golfers appreciate, and that is what the Masters represents, not only to the sport, but also to the passage of time. It's like when the Masters happens, it's springtime. It's time to start thinking about and going out and playing golf again. Why is it in the book that you felt that the Masters would fly over the heads of private equity people, going back into the business element of it?
Yeah, one of the things I did is, so if I look, I have something like 22 or 24 companies that I compare the Masters to. So it's Disney, it's Uline, it's Buc-ee's, but it's also places like Publix and stuff. And one of the things I did when I started to analyze it, even though Publix is a huge supermarket, it's employee owned. And 80% of the companies that I ended up comparing to from in the book were either employee owned or privately owned. And the other 20%, and frankly, I give a lot of examples of companies that do a horrible job. Almost all of them were owned they were either big public companies, or they were owned by private equity. So it's not something I came in and said, this is something I want to try to prove or disprove. I just looked at and analyzed as I went through it. And I think, Fred, it comes back to just money. If you're in private equity and you're investing in something and you want to get a return on it, what's your time horizon, right? Augusta's time horizon, they're looking out 20, 30 years and they're thinking about the brand. They're not thinking about money. So same thing, if you're employee owned, you're going to do everything you can to make sure that the company is successful, because if the company does well, you do well. It's just a matter of the incentives, I think. And obviously there are public companies like Disney that do a good job, but in my experience, the bigger the company, the more bureaucratic, and companies that are owned by private equity and other owners that are just looking to milk it and make money out of it. To me, they don't live the principle. Certainly there's going to be exceptions. I'm sure I'll get calls from people that are in private equity complaining about that comment, but it's a general rule that's what I found as I analyzed the book.
Interesting. You also and I hope it's okay to talk about this, you were quite revealing about your personal story.
Yes,
You even said, "I've lived 2 lives."
I have.
Do you
Yeah,
mind sharing that with us?
I think the way I describe it is the first life was, I mean, I was wildly successful. Given, I didn't excel at school. I wasn't fantastic at sports, but I ended up doing very well in business. I have a fantastic family. I played the top 100 courses, right? I mean, it was a dream life. And then in 2018, I was diagnosed with leukemia, and my first life ended in one day. Leukemia is cancer of the blood, and I had a particular strain that is very deadly, unfortunately. So they put me in an ambulance. I went to the hospital. I wasn't allowed to leave for 30 days. I had a bone marrow transplant. And since then, there's a lot of complications. I'm lucky to be alive. Let me just say first and foremost that I'm not complaining about anything. Every day is a gift. I'm happy to be here, but I deal with a lot of issues from the bone marrow transplant, and it sounds goofy, but when I was in the hospital and I had some moments that were not so great, and I obviously wanted to get out to be with my family and my friends and so forth. But I also dreamed about one day, like returning to go back to the Masters, as odd as that sounds, because, I'm stuck in, after you have a bone marrow transplant, it's sort of like the Seinfeld episode with the bubble boy. You're stuck in a room. When nurses and doctors come in, they have to put on special equipment. You're not allowed to leave the room for 30 days. I'm hooked up to 5 or 6 different monitors and IVs and so forth. It's such an antiseptic environment, and it really just crushes the soul. And to me, the best place in the world, and you've been there, anybody that's been there, when you're standing by the 13th green or you're near Amen Corner, it's heaven. And I just, one of the things that motivated me to write the book is I just wanted to know more I wanted to go back. And I did. A couple of years after, my doctor said, no, you really can't go. You can't fly. You don't have a good immune system. She was hemming and hawing. And eventually, I say in the book, I say, like most people don't know a lot about golf, the majority of people out there, but they know what the Masters is. And, she's 70 years old, my oncologist. She has no clue about golf, but she knows what the Masters is. She recognizes the theme song, and she'll watch on Sunday. That's the only golf she ever watches. So she gave me permission, and we ended up going back. And I said, that's when my mental healing began. The doctors that treated me did a phenomenal job. I'm forever grateful to what they did, but it just beats you down spiritually and mentally. And for me, everybody's got something different. That's one of the things I really wanted to do. So call it an obsession about Augusta National or the Masters, whatever you want. But that's one of the things I dreamed of. And I've been working on the book for 3 years, and it's just been a dream project for me because I can't get enough things Augusta. I just love everything about what they do. Because as you know, you've been there, and hopefully, people listening, if they haven't been able to go, and keep trying the lottery. Eventually you'll win. I won the lottery last year for the first time ever. It took 15 years to win. So there's hope for anybody to go. And I think it should be a life goal of anybody, because, Disneyland is for kids, but Augusta is for adults. And it's hard to describe, right? As much as I try to do it in the book, unless you've actually been on property and experience it firsthand, it's very difficult to relate that, which is why people are so insane when they come back from the Masters, and they lose their minds when they go into the pro shop, because it's like you're a kid in a candy store. You're like, I finally made it, and I might never come back. So I'm going to buy everything, and I'm going to give a gift to everybody I know. Yep. It's not uncommon, Fred. Not uncommon what you did. Yeah.
Well, good. Gee, that makes me feel better. Well, here's a little gift for you, John.
Oh, awesome. Best song in the world.
Yeah. There are probably, I can think of 3 life goals for golfers. 1 would be a hole-in-one.
Yep.
2, getting to witness the Masters in person.
Yep.
And to me, my ultimate one now is someday shooting my age.
Yeah, that's a good one too. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's I hope you're well now.
Yes, thank you.
I'm so sorry about all the troubles that you've been through, and
I consider myself lucky in many respects, but thank you.
Oh yeah. And I consider myself lucky because I got a chance to talk to you again and about this book. Which
Always
again,
a pleasure.
I think if anybody listening, if in fact you have or are part of a business that you want to help grow, you got to look at this book and take it seriously. It's called The Augusta Principles, right?
Yes. Thank you, Fred.
Please share with us how to find more about the book, about you, where to get it.
Yeah, there's a website. I think I sent the link with this episode. There's a website called the Augusta Principles that people could visit or Google, or the book's available on Amazon. A lot of people buy it on Amazon. But thank you for that, Fred. Yep.
Absolutely. John, it was great to catch up
Yes,
with you
indeed.
again after so long. Can't
Yes.
believe the Golf Smarter is still going on and that we were able to reconnect after so many years.
Yep. Well, your podcast is so good. That's why you've been doing it for so long, Fred.
No,
Yeah.
I've got that, the OCD thing that we talked about with Cliff Roberts. Like,
Understood.
Can't stop, just can't stop. Because if I do, I'll never come back. I got to keep going. But it's been an incredible journey, and I'm so glad to have you help me put it all together on both sides.
Oh, the pleasure's mine.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Fred.